The war is over. Jesus is your healer, your financier, and your righteousness. Just believe you receive it, and you got it. Hey guys, today, and gals, we're going to continue respect sex, number 4, proper sex, and we're talking about after marriage. So we're talking about protection mentally. Why you only, the guidelines, it's only when appropriate, sexual intercourse, only when appropriate. Simple guidelines. 1, only if they're in eternity. Since we're talking about after marriage, so if you're married to somebody and they step into eternity, they got tired of this life, they pulled an Enoch and stepped out on Elijah and went up in a whirlwind of fire. Hey, I'm ready to go to heaven, and they just go up like Elijah. Not Elijah. Well, yeah, Elijah did do that. Enoch, yeah, okay, like I was right. But if they decide, if they're in eternity, whatever not, they live a long, fruitful life, 120, she checks out, dudes, and you're ready to get married again. Hey, remember, it's only if they're in eternity, and 2, after you're married. Again, to your new spouse, so you can't, no committing fornication or whatever outside the marriage thing. Now, the other thing is 2, if, 1, the previous marriage ends in adultery. So if they're in eternity, or the previous marriage ends in adultery. If your spouse commits adultery and you call it quits because of that, that's the only reason you can really divorce in the Bible is because of, adultery. And, if it ends in that, but then you got to get married. So it's not like, oh, she commits adultery. Dude says, oh, well, she committed adultery, so I can go do that myself. Doesn't work that way. So that's it. Next, so you got the only if they're in eternity and after you're married, or if the previous marriage ends in adultery and after you're married again. So it's still after marriage. Now, really, one of the main things you have to remember that it deals with sin. That's the problem, because the spirit realm undercurrents and supersedes the mental realm and the physical realm. So when sin opens up the door, when you do commit fornication, you do commit adultery, it does open up the door for things to happen inside the mental realm and the physical realm and the spiritual realm. So that's why, it's important to follow the rules that King God set up for our universe. So protection mentally for yourself. That's simple. No, let me stop. Protection mentally. So why only when you get into a new relationship after they're in eternity and you're married? See, 1, if your spouse is in eternity, there's no more physical ties. Mental, you don't have any, you're not worried about this other person out there existing. You're trying to live your life, and you're fornicating and stuff and committing adultery and stuff like that, and you got this other person out there. That can cause stress on yourself, because you do have a previous marriage and stuff like that. And I mean, really, if you have kids out of wedlock or whatever, and you're going from marriage to marriage to marriage to marriage to marriage, mentally, that can be stressful for yourself. You can cause problems for yourself just mentally, because now you got all these different people you're dealing with, and you don't want to do that. That's not necessary. So you can protect yourself from that. I mean, let's go on. Your current extended protection mentally for your current extended family. Your parents, your siblings, your nieces and nephews, if they, your siblings have any children or whatever, whatnot. That's mentally for them, because, hey, like I said, if you're running from house to house to house to house, having fornication, having kids and stuff like that, whatnot, that your parents are your parents. So they're your parents the entire time you exist. Now, from here all the way through eternity, they are actually still your parents. And they have to, they don't need to sit there and think about that. Oh, he's doing this again. Oh, there goes another kid. Oh, whatever, he got a sexually transmitted disease, or, loss and death is like messing with this thing, or you can't have your parents have grief of mind. They're worried about you because you're living an immoral lifestyle and stuff like that, and your sisters and brothers and your nephews and nieces and stuff like that. Hey, that's not good for your nephew to be coming to the house and you got a new person. Every 3 years you get married to a new person. Hey, they don't need that. Hey, mentally they don't need that, because you'd be training them. Oh, this is okay, this is cool. It's not okay. It's not cool. So that you can protect your extended family, your current extended family, mentally. And it's very good because you don't need your older sibling drinking coffee or having mental problems, undue stress because now they have to take care of your kids or whatnot because now you got a new family and now you got a new set of children, and now the cousins are like saying, who's this got this baby here, and it's like the other one, and now they got that aunt is still visiting, and that aunt is now this new aunt, and it's like, it's not good. So make sure that it's very important to protect your family, your current extended family. You have to do that. It's very important to do that. So your current extended family. I'm still on this protection mentally. Your current family is not supposed to cope with your sin and immorality. Your current family is not theirs. That is not their job to cope with something. If you're committing fornication, adultery, and running around, that's not your family's job to cope. Coping is not, that's nowhere, nor in the Bible are we supposed to cope with anything. So your parents aren't supposed to cope with your bad decisions. Your siblings aren't supposed to cope with your bad decisions. Your children, we'll get down to that later, but your nieces and nephews, they're not supposed to be coping with your bad decisions. So don't think that they're supposed to, I'll just live my life, do whatever I want to do, and they'll just have to deal with it because I'm related to them. No, they don't. And that causes mental stress on you and them, and it really causes spiritual problems. But they don't. And remember that. It's not, I go do whatever I want to do, and dad and mom have to deal with it, pay for it, and do stuff like that. Hey, that's dangerous ground. So remember, your family doesn't have to do that. Don't put that stress on them because it creates stress because they're not supposed to be dealing with that. They're supposed to be dealing with you, married to your spouse. Yay, you have sex and you have children, whatever, whatnot. They're not supposed to be dealing with you having 18 spouses, stuff like that. 3, your current spouse, if you're divorced for something other than adultery. If you're divorced by adultery, that's ironclad. That really ends it. Yeah, there might be some mental concern, stress, or whatever about that because maybe you may be mentally hurt because they went off and did something they weren't supposed to do. Or you went off and did something you weren't supposed to do. So now you got stressed. I blew it. But if it ends in that, that's different. But if it doesn't end in it, it can cause stress because it can cause problems for your current spouse. Heaven still sees it as your current spouse. Sorry, it's not like, you divorce and then heaven is like, okay, he divorced, new marriage. Oh, he divorced, new marriage. No, don't worry like that because you got the current spouse. They have to, maybe it was about money, or you blame them. You lied and said it was their fault, or you lied and said it was your fault, or whatever it caused. You could stress them out because they're like, well, maybe I'm the problem why he left or she left. And, the girls are like, maybe she's a problem because he left. Or the dudes are like, maybe they're the problem because she left. And it could cause them stress where they think it could cause them problems in going to another relationship. Aside from the fact that it will cause sin because of adultery, but that's later. You already heard that before. But that'd be stress. That's unnecessary stress for your current spouse. And now here's another one. If you divorced a spouse, I don't like the way she makes bacon, so you leave. And so you get married, have another kid. And you already got a kid from this place, this spouse. And that one, now you got another kid. So now this kid, this spouse is like, whenever you come visit to spend time with your child, or whenever they go to Christmas vacation to grandparents' mansion in the Himalaya mountains, now this spouse, your original spouse, has to see this other spouse, and y'all are there together. Hello, and now you got another kid, and now they're stepbrothers and stepsisters. Hey, that is not some stress your spouse needs to be going through because you decided you want to go bounce around. Or they decided, you don't need to go through that. If you're a current spouse, the other person, hey, you're not designed to do that. So that's another reason. You can protect people mentally from that. Your spouse doesn't need to be putting up with that. Stuff like, going to graduations, they come visit, they got to drop their kids off at your house, and you got this whole new set of children, then they got a whole new set of grandparents that the children have to deal with, and now there's 3 grandparents that your kids have to, it's like, what? So next is your, what? That's really what it is. Next is your current immediate family. as in your children. No, that was your current spouse. Next is your future spouse. Your future spouse doesn't need that either. You committed, if you're, you break out for adultery and stuff like that, and you get married to a new person, it's almost the same thing. It's just reversed. They're the new spouse, and now you got all these other children out there, or you got all these other people who you're still dealing with, and you got all these other, whatnot, all this history, all these pictures up in the house. What are you going to do? You got to get rid of them. Get rid of them or something? Got all these pictures, all this history. You got children from other marriages. You got grandparents from other families. And now you're traveling, or you got custody of the kid, and now they got to go to 3 sets of grandparents' houses or 4 sets of grandparents' houses for Christmas, and it's like planning. And it sounds bad because it is bad. That explains why the devil wants people to commit adultery and fornication and be sexually immoral and stuff like that, because it causes stress. And your future spouse, if you have one, will not appreciate that. People aren't designed to cope. Your future spouse is not required to cope with bad decisions you choose to make after this video. Next is your current immediate family. Number 5, your current immediate family, your children. Hey, that's stress on them. If you say, oh, you just bounce and you don't, this ain't working. We're not going to go to church. We're not going to pray. We're not going to seek God. We're not going to do our best to find out what needs to happen in this relationship to see what needs to happen so it can be fixed. So you're just, oh, it's just me. Hey, those children are people too. Children are people. And don't be fooled because a kid kind of looks like they're coping. They're not coping. They're just children. They haven't grown up to rebel yet. So when you got so don't do that. Don't do that to your kids. Your current immediate family. Hey, you bounce and leave. Maybe the kids start thinking it's their fault. Mentally. Protect them mentally. Don't let them come to, the devil could start lying to them, telling them it's their fault because you left or whatnot. And that can cause problems. And then now, of course, they got another thing. They're 13 years old, and now you got a baby. Now they got a stepbrother. Hello? Their house is broken. Their house is broken. And now you got a new family over here where they got you, their dad, or you, their mom, and another spouse. Now they got, if you're, and there's another kid. So now they're in a broken home and they see this other home. This can cause problems mentally for your child. Because now they're in a broken home and you're in another home having fun. Oh, here's my baby and stuff like that. They got to go visit you. And now they have to put up with this new spouse of yours? They're your kid, but they gotta go visit you. And so they have to put up, that's stress. Hey, listen, your children, your current kids are not required to do that. Don't come to the selfish conclusion, let the devil lie to you that I just do whatever I want to and the kids do, they'll be fine. Buy them any presents you want. That's not going to change what they think about the situation. Spiritually, you can change it with God and the Word of God, and God can heal the whole situation up. Don't be running off trying to hurt yourself. But without the Lord, a kid could hold on to that for 40 years. That could ruin their life. They could think, well, maybe all marriages end in divorce. And then they get married. Ooh, they divorced down another kid. Oh, they get married. Hey, kids are copying and imitating their parents. 1, because they love them, or 2, because that's all they see. And so they grow up and think that's normal, that Poppy just runs off and does anything he wants to, has all these children and stuff like that. That hurts them socially in the future, hurts them, and it hurts them mentally. They're trying to take a test, and you done bounced. They're about to graduate from college, or they're about to graduate from high school. That could mess with their performance on the football team. I said this before. That could mess with their performance in band. They could just mentally get fatigued and quit and just decide, I'm just not going to deal with this anymore. And I'm not going to go any further on that thought. But hey, don't do that. Don't put undue stress on people. That's why God wants to protect you from stuff like that. And your future family. If the previous marriage, the person stepped into attorney, dudes, if the lady stepped into attorney, ladies, if the man stepped into attorney, and you got married, and then you have intercourse, and you have another kid, or whatnot, or if the previous marriage ended in adultery, and you're married again, you can protect your future family, any future children you have, your future, I guess your future extended family too, parents and stuff like that, because they won't have to mess with mental problems, do all that other stuff, multiply each person. Hey, if your future family, your kids, you have 8 kids, and you have 3 outside of wedlock, or 3 from a previous marriage, we'll say from a previous marriage, and it didn't end in adultery and stuff like that, that's 8 kids times 3 different things. So that's 8 times 3. That's 24 separate issues. First kid has an issue with each of them. The second kid has an issue with each of them. So you can protect your future family, your future, all of that. I mean, even your kids' future spouses. I mean, if you have all that, then their future spouses come into a thing, and grandparents and stuff like that. And, you know, grandparents for Thanksgiving meal, and you got all these kids. They came to your house, but you got all these kids from 8 different marriages. That's, I mean, so you can protect your future family from that. So the Lord loves you, and God's good. So just make sure protection mentally for yourself, for your current extended family, your current spouse, if you have any, if it was divorced for some other reason other than adultery or death, you know, stepping into eternity. Yeah, I use that term. Your future spouse, if any, your current immediate family, your current future family. Protection mentally. So sex only when it's appropriate after marriage. Only if they're an attorney and after you're married. Or only if the previous marriage ended in adultery and after you're married to the new one. There's no free pass without the outside that. So I love you. Thanks for joining me. And be blessed in the name of the living Lord King Jesus the Christ.